location. It costs $428 a night to stay at the old haunted home, where visitors always report strange paranormal experiences, such as visions of a man with an axe roaming the halls, or the faint screams of children. But in November of 2014, the haunting took a darker turn. Robert Stephen Lorson Jr., 37, of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, was on a regular recreational paranormal visit with friends when true horror struck. Per Vice, his companions found him stabbed in the chest, an apparently self-inflicted wound, called 911, and Lorson was brought to a nearby hospital before being helicoptered to Cretin University Medical Center in Omaha. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office said Lorson suffered the self-inflicted injury at about 12:45 a.m., which is around the same time the 1912 axe murders in the house began. Lorson recovered from his injuries, but has never spoken publicly about what occurred that day. For Martha Lynn, the owner of the home, the incident was very upsetting. It's publicity, but it's not exactly the kind of publicity you desire to have. I don't want people thinking that when they come to the Villisca Axe murder house, something's going to happen that's going to make them do something like that. The house remains open for tourist visits and overnight stays today. Number 2. The Haunted Doll. When you think of haunted dolls, it's likely the creepy old Victorian-looking porcelain kind that springs to mind, none of which you probably have laying around. Still, don't get too comfortable around any kids' toys too soon. A Disney's Frozen Elsa doll that was gifted for Christmas 2013 in the Houston area made headlines when it seemingly became haunted. Per KPR C2 Houston News, the doll recited phrases from the movie Frozen and sang "Let It Go" when a button on its necklace was pressed. For 2 years it did that in English, Mother Emily Madonia said. In 2015, it started doing it, alternating between Spanish and English. There wasn't a button that changed these. It was just random. The family has owned the doll for more than 6 years and never changed its batteries. The mother says the doll would randomly begin to speak and sing, even with its switch turned off. The family decided to throw the creepy doll out in December of 2019. Weeks later, they found it inside a bench in their Houston News. At that point, Elsa ceased to sing the English rendition of Let It Go altogether, speaking only Spanish when pressed. The family then double-bagged the bizarre doll and placed it at the bottom of their garbage, which was taken out on Garbage Day. They went on a trip shortly after, but when they returned, Elsa too had come back and was waiting in the backyard of their home. This time, the family mailed Elsa to a family friend in Minnesota who taped the haunted doll to the front bumper of his truck. It doesn't seem to have made its way back to Houston yet, as per Madonia's latest Facebook update on the creepy doll. Number 3. A deadly exorcism. In August 2016, in North London, 26-year-old Kennedy Ipe began acting strange and aggressive following a pain in his throat. He reportedly bit his father, threatened to cut off his own body parts, and complained of a python or snake inside of him before his family restrained him to a bed with cable ties and excessive force. As the BBC reported, the family then set about attempting to cure Kennedy through restraint and prayer over the next 3 days, the court was told. His brother, Colin Ipe, told police, "It's clear that thing was in him, what he believed was a demon, because it was not natural. It was clearly trying to kill him," he said. "We had to restrain him for himself. It was clear if we didn't restrain him, he could have tried to harm people in our family." Kennedy Ipe had been bound to his bed for 3 days without medical attention when his brother called emergency services, explaining that Kennedy Ipe was complaining of dehydration. He appeared to have developed breathing issues and was pronounced dead at 10:17 a.m. As The Independent reported, while police were at the house, Colin Ipe allegedly carried out an attempted resurrection by chanting and praying for Mr. Ipe. All 7 of Kennedy Ipe's family members were accused of manslaughter, false imprisonment, and causing or allowing the death of a vulnerable adult. A post-mortem examination revealed over 60 wounds, including a possible bite on Kennedy Ipe's body, and his father, Kennedy Ipe, along with 4 of his brothers, sustained injuries as well. The BBC reported Kenneth Ipe told jurors he ordered his sons to take shifts and use overwhelming force, but denied that an association with cults, occults, and secret societies played any part in the death. After a 4-day jury deliberation, all 7 family members were cleared of charges on March 14th, 2019. Number 4. Dead animals in the walls. When the Pretzius family decided to insulate their home in Auburn, Pennsylvania in 2015, newspapers from the 1930s and 40s and were among half-used spices and other items. After removing the items, they sent hundreds of artifacts and carcasses to an expert in Kutztown. The expert attributed the rotting animals in their walls to powwow, or Dutch magic, a ritual originating in the culture of the Pennsylvania Dutch to treat ailments and gain physical and spiritual protection. The Pennsylvania Dutch were a group of German-speaking settlers to Pennsylvania in the 16 and 1700s and are often of Lutheran, Mennonite, or Amish faiths. The Washington Post notes on the magic. Many of the spells deal with the care of livestock, finding water, or the treatment of minor ailments, reflecting the conditions and concerns of early American settlers. But powwow also has within it a tradition of darker spells, and even of such things as conjuring demons. One notable ritual in their tradition is this hex to create loyalty in a dog. To attach a dog to a person, provided nothing else was used before to affect it. Try to draw some of your blood and let the dog eat it along with his food, and he will stay with you. The mold found on the rotting carcasses in the Pretzius home has caused illness among the family members, and they say that the odor hasn't gone away. Number 5. Florida devil worshipping. Friends noticed that Danielle Harkins, a 35-year-old school teacher near St. Petersburg, Florida, started acting strangely in June of 2012, developing an interest in demonic rituals. Soon after, she was arrested for abuse of 7 of her former students, as the Tampa Bay Times reported. Danielle Harkins told the kids they needed to rid their bodies of demons as the group gathered before dusk Saturday around a small fire near the St. Petersburg Pier. They should cut their skin to let the evil spirits out, police said she told the children. Then they needed to burn the wounds to ensure that those spirits would not return. When Harkins held a lighter to one teen's hand, wind blew the flame out, police said. That prompted her to douse his hand in perfume before setting it on fire. The boy suffered second-degree burns, police said. Another teen was cut on the neck with a broken bottle, police said. Harkins used a flame to heat a small key, which she then used to cauterize the wound. The police were notified because a friend of one of the students who participated in the ritual raised alarms. However, none of the students themselves told their parents about the event or would comment following the arrest of Harkins for aggravated battery and child abuse. NBC reported. Investigators said they've spoken to Harkins, but she didn't spell out what type of religion would require such drastic measures. She hasn't informed us exactly what what she was trying to accomplish with this, Boots of the St. Petersburg Police Department said. Number 6. The death of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam was last seen on January 31st, 2013 in the lobby of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was vacationing through the West Coast, documenting the trip on her blog and checking in with her parents every day. On January 31st, those calls stopped. Lam had vanished. Soon, the police were involved and her parents arrived to help with the search. They had nothing. That February, LAPD released elevator surveillance footage of Lam before her disappearance. The footage shows Lam behaving strangely in the elevator, appearing to talk with invisible people, peering around the corner of the door, crouching in the corner, and opening and closing the door. But what exactly is going on in this video raises more questions than answers. Theories range from psychotic episodes to demonic possession to unknown assailants just out of the camera's view. Around that time, hotel guests started reporting weird things happening with the Cecil Hotel water supply. As CNN reports, the shower was awful, said Sabina Bog, who spent 8 days there during the investigation. When you turned the tap on, the water was coming black first for 2 seconds, and then it was going back to normal. The tap water tasted horrible, Bog said. It had a very funny, sweety, disgusting taste. It's a very strange taste. I can barely describe it. But for a week, they never complained. We never thought anything of it, she said. We thought it was just the way it was here. On the morning of February 19th, a hotel employee climbed to the roof and used a ladder to investigate the hotel's water storage tanks. That's where authorities found the decomposing, naked body of Lam, whose personal items were found nearby. After an autopsy, her death was labeled accidental. NBC Los Angeles reported at the time about the strange circumstances in the hotel's past. The tank has a metal latch that can be opened, but authorities said access to the roof is secured with an alarm and lock. The single-room occupancy hotel has an unusual history. Night stalker Richard Ramirez, who was found guilty of 14 slayings in the 1980s, lived on the 14th floor for several months in 1985. And international serial killer Jack Unterweger is suspected of murdering 3 prostitutes during the time he lived there in 1991. He killed himself in jail in 1994. In 1962, a female occupant jumped out of one of the hotel's windows, killing herself and a pedestrian on whom she landed on. In February 2021, a Netflix doc called Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel explored Elisa's tragic children climbing up the walls, getting thrown across rooms, and children threatening doctors in deep, unnatural voices. It would seem like something straight out of a movie, a work of fantasy, except all of these accounts were more or less corroborated with nearly 800 pages of official records obtained by the Indianapolis Star and recounted in more than a dozen interviews with police, DCS personnel, psychologists, family members, and a Catholic priest. One of the more chilling sections of the report includes a segment about the possessed 9-year-old. According to Washington's original DCS report, an account corroborated by Walker, the nurse, the 9-year-old had a weird grin and walked backward up a wall to the ceiling. He then flipped over Campbell, landing on his feet. He never let go of his grandmother's hand. Another segment of the piece reads, "The 12-year-old would later tell mental health professionals that she sometimes felt as if she were being choked and held down so she couldn't speak or move. She said she heard a voice say she'd never see her family again and wouldn't live another 20 minutes." Number 8. Utah murder-suicide. In September of 2014, a Utah teen returned to his home to find his parents and 3 siblings dead. In a notebook, a to-do list had been scribbled on the pages. The list looked as if the parents were readying to go on vacation. Items such as feed the pets and find someone to watch after the house were written. The Salt Lake Tribune reported, "It appeared to be murder-suicide, but there was no suicide note, no prior indication that they would do this, no explanation." Police could not figure out why 2 parents would kill themselves and 3 of their 4 children. For a year, no one knew exactly what happened to the family or what would drive the parents to do something so unthinkable. In January, police released more chilling details in the case. According to accounts from family members and an investigation by police, the parents were driven by a belief that the apocalypse was coming and an obsession with the convicted killer. As the Washington Post reported, friends and family told police that the parents were worried about the evil in the world and wanted to escape a pending apocalypse, but most assumed they just wanted to move somewhere off the grid. Investigators also found letters written by Christy Strack to one of the state's most infamous convicted killers, Dan Lafferty, who was convicted in the 1984 fatal stabbing of his sister-in-law and her 1-year-old daughter. According to trial testimony, he killed the victims at the order of his brother, Ron Lafferty, who claimed to have had a revelation from God. The story became family-specific death threats. The unidentified callers knew exactly what families were doing and what they were wearing. The families say the calls come in at all hours of the night, threatening to kill their children, their pets, and grandparents. Voicemails arrive, playing recordings of their private conversations, including one with a local police detective. The caller knows, the family said, what they're wearing and what they're doing. And after months of investigating, police seem powerless to stop them. This went on with the Gucanol family for months, who reported a caller with a scratchy voice threatening to slit their throats. When the Faircrest, Washington police tried to find the culprit, the calls were traced back to the Kuykendall's own phones, even when they were turned off. It got worse. The Kuykendalls and two other Faircrest families told ABC News that they believed the callers are using their cell phones to spy on them. They say the hackers know their every move, where they are, what they're doing, and what they're wearing. The callers have recorded private conversations, the families and police said, including a meeting with a local detective. Number 10. The Watcher. After moving into their $1.3 million dream home, a New Jersey family started receiving creepy death threats from someone who identified themselves as the Watcher. As CBS News reported, since moving in, the owners said they have received numerous letters from the mysterious person. The Watcher claimed the home has been the subject of my family for decades, and I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming, Castro reported. The new owners have several children, and other letters asked, have they found out what's in the walls yet? And I am pleased to know your names now, and the name of the young blood you have brought to me. The family was forced to flee from their home and later filed a lawsuit against the previous owners. And number 11, Icy the Cannibal. In 1974, a 24-year-old Waco University student, Icy Sagawa, allegedly followed a German woman to her home in Tokyo, Japan, broke into her apartment while she was sleeping, and attempted to cut a piece of flesh off her body to consume. When she awoke, she reportedly fought him, and he was later captured by the police. According to a 2012 Vice documentary that covered Icy's bizarre story, he was mistakenly charged with attempted rape, and his wealthy father paid the victim a settlement outside of court to have the charges dropped. 7 years later, in 1981, he allegedly committed a murder in France, shooting and eating a fellow university student, Renee Hartbelt. Icy creepily documented the entire experience with photographs, and he was captured by authorities once again while attempting to dump the rest of her body in the Bois de Boulogne lake. the streets as a free man ever since. Icy has even become a controversial celebrity, writing over 20 books. According to Japan Today, he has most recently fantasized about an unnamed TV actress, saying, "I'll catch a glimpse of her thigh and think, that sure looks tasty, but I don't feel like I actually want to eat it, as I accomplished the act of cannibalism once. There's no meaning to maintaining the desire for it anymore. In my book, I wrote that if human flesh was tasty, but that was not really true. I'd much rather eat Kobe beef, but because I desired to consume human flesh for so long, I'd managed to convince myself that it would necessarily be delicious." Icy Sagawa was also referenced in the Rolling Stones song Too Much Blood, with the lyrics reading, "And when he ate her, he took her bones to the Bois de Boulogne." He is currently 73 years old and continues to live in Kawasaki City, Japan. To this day, no one knows why France did not allow Japan to give him a trial. So that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful night. Thank you so